So with our handsome Mr. W, I know we were discussing a little bit with some of those find its and the benefit behind the behavior. So view almost find it's like doing your picture book. So if, let's say, for example, you don't know your alphabet and I'm constantly yelling at you for not being able to either spell a word or be able to read, remember that for your pup. Sometimes getting to the attainable behaviors later, like your sits or downs, or even working a bed behavior, would be something that, of course, we'd like to get to. But remember, behaviorally, if your puppy is feeling really overwhelmed, so imagine with us, if we were feeling really stressed out, or we were having a panic attack, or maybe we're really excited about somebody's birthday party or going out to dinner, we may have a hard time honing in and focusing on the task at hand in front of us. So if, let's say, French was very new to you and you have barely even started learning this new language, and I set you up with practicing at, let's say, an amusement park, you may not do as well as we were hoping. So remember that you want to set up some of these behaviors or skills in a moment where you think your puppy's going to be successful because the environment creates an attainable moment for them. So you notice how when he goes to jump, I either ignore or I would ask for something else in return. So let's say, for example, he was about to do some jumping. I might ask for a little sit. If he can offer the sit, awesome. If he can't because he's way too excited, chewing is still optional, then movement behaviors are better. So when in doubt, keeping him moving is better than telling him to be stationary if he can't handle the dynamic or the environment. Ready? Find it. So right now he's warming up with a couple find its. And then what we're going to do from the find it is that I want to work a little bit with loose leash walking. So you'll see that, for example, I do not have his equipment on. Like, what I mean by that is his leash. So anytime Mr. W targets me or the side of my leg, I'm going to feed him for that. If all 4 feet are on the floor, he's going to also get some reinforcement there because I want him to start thinking there's value in not jumping. Remember that I mentioned in a few other videos earlier is that Mr. W is probably doing some jumping because he's overwhelmed. If, let's say, when you're practicing this, your puppy starts to do some jumping, I would recommend to feed the floor. So I know sometimes he doesn't quite get his little snack right to his mouth, it falls out. So you could be walking and then feed the floor next to you. So I call this sometimes the breadcrumb trail. The benefit to this behavior is that it can get your puppy, and again, he's just switching from left to right, because then that way, again, I don't care which side he'd rather be on for you guys, so always feel free to pick a side, or I like to sometimes teach my dogs to work on either side. Yes. So this is the beginning stages. Ready, find it? He's like, I did not see. So these are the beginning stages of working loose leash walking. If your pup is really struggling with this, it may be easier for both of you to try without the leash on. So one of my favorites, yes, is to work this in your living room. Maybe it could be your kitchen. Oh my goodness, chewing is so hard. Either your kitchen, your living room, your hallway. But if your puppy is pulling, it normally means they're either overwhelmed or they don't quite know what to do. So those little behaviors when he does that jump in, that's actually him saying he's anxious. So a lot of times he is panting kind of heavy. He was just playing with the flirt pole. But even before that, when he came in the morning, he was a bit stressed. So for some of the babes, if you're not as familiar with stress signals, I would recommend to check out some of the resources I sent along. Obviously, your first day trying anything new is going to even create stress for us. So, but there's a certain amount of stress that I would deem comfortable, and then others where it's maybe more overwhelming and not necessarily beneficial. I think for him right now, his first day, very typical to have a little bit of insecurities because he's never done this. But at home, where he's mostly supposed to feel comfortable and reliable, if you're noticing some stress signals there, then there might be other things to work on even in the household. Because some puppies, remember that their crucial socialization and window for experiences and for learning closes as young as 12 to maybe 16 weeks of age. So if he was never really exposed to puppy class or certain situations, remember by this point, the lay of the land's already been laid down. It doesn't mean he can't learn new things, but by this point, he's no longer a puppy, he's now a teenager. So when your puppy heads into 6 months, that's when adolescence kicks in. So adolescence is from 6 months to about 18 months, or maybe even 2 years of age, depending on the pup. So you'll see that he's doing some really nice automatic check-ins. Those are just moments where he looks to me on his own, and I'm feeding for anything good he's able to offer. So that's one of the crunchy ones from home, and we'll see if he goes for it. As I mentioned prior, if your puppy is not feeling comfortable, food value goes out the window. So I know you had mentioned that he was not really super food driven in the beginning, and that could have been where value of food was out the window because comfort range or arousal was much higher. Now with some maturity, you may be finding that his comfort range maybe has gotten a little bit better, and that might be why he's now maybe more responsive to taking food. Remember, just like with us, if we were feeling overwhelmed, we probably wouldn't feel as comfortable eating. So remember that when your F's come out, so your flight, fidget, fawn, freeze, or some of those lovely F's, those are going to be stress moments where it's survival mode. So in survival mode, as opposed to when you're feeling safe and comfortable, that's going to be moments, he's like chewing is so hard. That's going to be moments where the brain is no longer really connected to the body because you're just trying to make it another day. So if you were about to have the best meal of your life, and let's say Gordon Ramsay created the most decadent meal just for you, your favorites, and you were to sit out in this lovely patio and you start hearing some rustling, and all of a sudden out of the woods comes this giant grizzly bear, in that situation, you're not going to care about that most decadent meal. You're going to head right out of there so you can live another day. So remember, food only has value when you're feeling safe. If you're feeling unsafe or overwhelmed or over-aroused, that normally means, for the dog's perspective, that food doesn't have value at that moment because they're way out of that bubble of thinking. So make sure that when you're practicing with him, if you're finding the environment is maybe too stimulating or too exciting or overwhelming, and it could be a trail mix of emotions, you may find that Mr. W doesn't have an easy time figuring out what to do because that brain is not really in use at that moment. So right now you can see that he's doing a much better job just kind of meandering. So as we're practicing, I would recommend to think about your food in your hand as your target hand for starters. If you find that he's doing a lot of jumping, in the beginning, keep the hand low with the food in it and then offer it. If you're keeping the hand halfway, so let's say, for example, he's on this side and I keep it about here, notice how he starts to jump for the hand. I like to make it very distinct. So that way, if let's say my hand is up higher, yes, the hand is not low to offer the snack. So in the beginning, I might start off right here with almost a target. We sometimes call this magnet hand, where you could actually load up a couple snacks into that hand and now use it as a target, and your puppy gets a snack here and there for targeting and being right up against your hand. If your puppy is also taking food really hard from his mouth or her mouth, then that means that their comfort range is also kind of getting a little bit overwhelmed, and also they could also be really overtired or overexcited. So that can sometimes be a helpful window into your puppy's comfort range. So if, again, I don't care whichever side he wants to work on for now and he can flip-flop, I just want him to think that there's value in being soft and next to me. So you'll see that my rate of reinforcement is also something that I do a lot with. So rate of reinforcement means how many snacks is my puppy getting within a time frame. So in the beginning, my rate of reinforcement is kind of high. If you see he starts to pop, just ignore. The moment he's on the floor again, feed there. So sometimes what this starts to help is realizing for him that the only time he gets a paycheck is when all 4 feet are on the floor. So this is really pretty. And if he goes a little ahead, I sometimes like to do a front behavior, and we've touched base on some of these in previous videos, but front is getting your puppy to feel comfortable coming into your space. I know chewing is so hard today. It's because he's panting a lot right now. So there we go. And there is a little bowl of water off to the side, so if he feels thirsty at any point, he can always go rehydrate. So you can see that we're getting some really nice engagement. There are moments where, remember, if behavior has been well rehearsed and well practiced, your puppy might actually start to think that jumping is just part of his everyday norm because it's always happened. So a lot of times puppies do not grow, yes, out of behavior, they grow into behavior. So if you're finding, nice job, Mr. W. So right now I'm capturing 2 real quick little moments where he's doing a really nice job keeping all on the floor, or to me, he could be offering eye contact or offering these little default sit positions. So, but notice I'm not asking him to work these big boy skills. If in the beginning your puppy's a bit apprehensive, I find, yes, to work him in softer little venues where you can still be successful. So you'll see that I also use that little positive interrupter. So that is for my dogs, when they hear the kissy noise, it means come check in for a little paycheck. But then that way, you can use it in moments where you don't like what he's doing. So I'm not saying wait for him to fail and then try to do it, but right there, yes, I'd go ahead and feed for that response back to me. So again, I'm going to send him away. And these are your find its again. And then you go, yes. And notice how I'm marking the moment he's heading my direction. I will be sending you some resources. So we'll dive into how do we create behavior. So luring, capturing, shaping. We'll also explain, again, timing's sake as well for when working with your puppy, rate of reinforcement, but then also making sure that we're marking behavior that we're looking for. So right here, even just standing, I'd go, yes. And of course, he went right into, oh my goodness, chewing, sir. Those are the crunchy green ones that you're having a little bit of a hard time with, sir. So we'll see if, again, sometimes I'll even try to mix some of those crunchies in with softer treats that are a little bit, moist. And the benefit to that is it can make the crunchier treats a little easier to slide down. So, but you can see, yes. How sometimes rotating through a couple little skills helps him start to figure out the main behavior. So notice how we get some jump in, I would ignore. I'd start working maybe another behavior or feed for softness when he does give it to me. If though your babe is able to jump for let's say 5-15 minutes, then that would be a lot of jumping that gets rehearsed. Ready? Find it. So, but we'll give him a little break from this loose leash walking and some of those find its and other skills. He's doing a real nice job.